Let's do a quick intro. So,
Do you want to start?
Sure. My name's Adam Cook. I'm a customer engineer at PatchMyPC.
My name is Liviu. I'm also a customer engineer at PatchMyPC.
Awesome. Yeah. And then today we're going to kind of do a demo of our product. So PatchMyPC is a third-party patching solution. Today we specifically integrate into Microsoft SCCM, Intune, and we also support WSUS standalone as well. So we're going to run through a demo of our product, kind of like show you how you can create packages and updates, customize them, and then we'll kind of bounce off on each other. And we'll try and save questions at the end, and then, but we're quite flexible. Questions during are okay, also time allowed, and then we'll do the raffle at the end. So I guess first things first, we're going to show you our product, and if you like what you see, come grab a free trial if you're not already a customer. Who are customers? Any of you guys are customers? Dave? Power on? No? Okay, cool. So a few people who aren't currently a customer. So come grab a free trial. 30 days will give you full access to our catalog, fully featured publishing software, and I'll show you more about that in a minute. We're quite flexible on 30 days, so if you need a bit more time, just reach out. Yeah, so about our catalog, Liviu, do you want to kind of touch on about our supported products?
Yeah, so on this page, I mean, it's all publicly available. You'll see all the apps that we have and that we support at the moment. When we sign up for this session, we had 750 of them. Lately, we are very focused on adding a lot more apps, so we can see that right now the product count is at 816, so we are starting to get faster, to add the apps a lot faster than before. And we intend to be even more faster in the future. And yeah, you can see all of that here. But if you look for a specific product that's not supported by us at the moment, all you need to do is request a new product, and this will take you to our user voice. And here you can simply upvote existing ideas or add your new ones. And yeah, based on the user voice, I mean, based on the upvotes, we'll then add it to the catalog.
And then we do have a public-facing roadmap that shows about the apps that we're adding to our catalog or have already added to our catalog. I don't know if the mic's gone
I think you're on mute. Maybe.
Am I on mute?
Are you on mute?
I don't know.
No,
oh,
you're okay.
No, there we go. Okay. I'll just leave it alone. I think I've been fiddling with it. That's the problem. Yeah, roadmap, see features that are coming in and publishing software. Again, we'll show you that in just a second, and apps that are going to be added and have been added to our catalog. And then with that, we'll probably just show you our software straight away. So in order to integrate with SCCM, we need to install our publishing service, which is this UI that you see here, on a very particular server in your environment. It needs to be installed on a software update point. And for Intune, if you wanted to integrate into just Intune and not SCCM, the requirements are a lot more flexible. You don't need to install, even on Windows Server. It could be a work group, Windows 10 or a Windows 11 VM, just need internet access. But for SCCM software update publishing, we work with WSUS. We need to be installed on the WSUS server because that's where the SDK is.
And for Intune, we have a SaaS solution in the works as well.
Yes.
Which will be coming this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Two big things coming in this year. We saw an internal demo not too long ago.
Yeah.
SaaS solution for our product today. And custom apps as well. So yeah, this on-prem kind of Windows service that's installed on a Windows host today with this console will one day be superseded by a cloud solution. So yeah, here in the general tab. So I don't need to explain too much. Some of it is kind of self-explanatory to some degree. There is a license key up top. You request a free trial, become a customer, put a license key up top. That gives you continued access to our catalog. We can show you some basic user statistics here about how many apps and updates we published into your tenant. And the certificate management. So maybe, Liviu, you can talk a little bit more about this, but it is just a requirement for software updates in ConfigMgr.
Yeah, it's a requirement that Microsoft has set for those that are unfamiliar with this. All third-party updates, they will need to be signed in order for your devices to trust them and allow them for them to be installed. And you have a few options to generate a certificate. You can let the CCM manage the whole thing. You can also manage it manually if you want to renew the certificate manually, or if you want to issue one from your internal CA. That's all options, valid options. You can even generate a self-signed certificate using PatchMyPC itself. Yeah. As Adam was showing, there are a few options that you need to make sure that we have enabled. So in the client settings, there is a specific option related to third-party updates. That will have to be enabled. In our case, it was already set to yes. And then on your software update point, I think you already showed that, Adam, right?
I did, yeah.
Yeah, there is another setting that you'll have to enable. And with all of that, if you're not familiar with these options, we can help. Setup is fully included even during the trials, so we can help with all of this if you're not familiar with it.
That's a really good point. I just want to go back to our website and show that real quick. As part of getting a free trial, we do offer a setup call, like Liviu just said. And if you scroll to the bottom, maybe not on this web page, because this web page is ridiculously long with all the apps in our catalog. There's links all over the place, but one of the places you can get to the schedule a call with us is at the bottom for schedule a setup call. So much like talking and working through prerequisites like the code signing certificate, and again, that's just a prerequisite for WSUS updates. You can schedule a setup call here with us, and this brings you to a booking link where you can book a time with an engineer one-on-one, and we can set you up with our solution for free. So it's a free of charge service, so absolutely abuse it. Support is included in our solution as well. So fastest way to get up and running. Yeah, good shout there, Liviu. But with the prerequisites out the way, that's only applicable for software updates and WSUS and SCCM, not applicable for Intune. But with that prerequisite out the way, we can go ahead and start selecting some products. So I'm just going to enable two very specific updates, Google Chrome and Notepad++, and I'll explain why.
So it's as simple as just ticking the box next to the software you want to be published as an update to WSUS, and then Patch My PC will do the work for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And checking the box kind of subscribes you to updates, new versions moving forward, yeah. And before I go on to the other tab, should we talk about right-click options?
Yeah, let's talk about the right-click options. Because as I mentioned before, all you need to do is just tick the box next to an app. But in some cases, you might want to customize those apps. You might have some, you might want the desktop shortcuts to be deleted, for instance. So in that case, you can preset this in Patch My PC. You don't have to do it at the individual app level. You can also do it at the top level for all products, and then all the software in that list will automatically inherit that option, as Adam is showcasing this with Google Chrome. But there are other options available here, like you can disable the self-updater if you want the apps to not automatically upgrade on the client side. And of course, one option I always highly recommend to enable at the all products level for all apps is, of course, logging. Because if something will fail on the client side, you will have logs at your disposal for troubleshooting. But of course, these are all optional. You want to take it away from here, Adam, with the other options?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've applied, like Liviu said, some at the all products level, and they kind of apply downward in that tree structure for every child node. And you'll see that we can deselect these options, but we have other options, more kind of granular options at the product level, like the ability to add custom pre or post scripts. So we can add a pre or a custom post action script, and the kind of file types that we support here are just anything that's kind of invocable natively in Windows. So PowerShell, VBS, Batch, MSIs, and EXEs, just to kind of give you the opportunity to still customize the packages. And I'm just going to put an example script here. Don't really need to know too much about it other than just that it's just showing an example of changing Google Chrome's default homepage, right? But what we can do here is add pre-scripts, post-scripts, and also additional files. So if our scripts depended on additional content, maybe a license file or a configuration file that you wanted to copy around on disk on the endpoint, browsing and choosing that there would package it all together. So when it's received locally by the client, it'll all be local. It'll all be relative in CCM.
And the nice part about that is you only need to do it once, and it's set and forget. Yeah. Patch My PC is going to always copy and include that specific script or file with each new version of that specific software that Patch My PC is going to package up for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, go for it.
So when you select the app, when you select the post script,
yeah.
Don't load the script, or does it need access like UNC share?
When we create the update, we take it from the UNC share and put it within the same package. So the client doesn't need access to the UNC. Like I've just done there, it was a UNC path. It's just the publisher itself that needs it to copy it and put it in the package when we publish. Yeah, it's a good question. That's a common trip up by many customers. So generally at this point, the key point I like to say is we take away that process of checking for new apps, creating new updates for you, but you still have the opportunity with these right-click options to customize the packages to however you need, however your user preferences and defaults and environment-specific settings. But one of the nicest right-click options, I think, is manage conflicting processes. Did you want to explain that?
So in some of the cases, I mean, the apps by default, they will install completely silent. The user won't notice anything. They won't be prompted to close anything. But for some apps, that might not work because they might fail to install if the user has an older version running. So in that case, you'll be able to manage conflicting processes directly from PatchMyPC. You can configure a conflicting process for a specific app, and then when the installation takes place on the client side, they will receive such a notification like this that's pre-configured by default. And they will have the option, depending on how you configured this setting, they will have the option to snooze the update or to close conflicting processes and run the update. It really depends. I mean, you have a lot of options, so you'll be able to be as granular as you want with this.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so we can configure how long we want the toast visible for, how many times we want to allow the user to snooze for, and even in the window that I was just in, if your devices are, you support more than just English language in the business, we support languages, all that Windows supports. We provide default translation for the most popular languages, but in any case, the language that's displayed to the user matches that of the Windows device. So it's just a nice way to kind of instruct the user that, hey, an update is incoming and you would prefer it to be closed before it's updated. And that just negates things like pending reboots and ensures successful install. But you have other options too, like force close with no warning if you wanted to.
Yeah, for apps such as Notepad++, where everything is cached, so even if they reopen the app, they're not going to lose their work.
Right, yeah, absolutely. Cool. You want to talk about the Scan Wizard?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a really nice tool. Because it will allow you to select some software to be published as apps or as updates, depending on your inventory, depending on what users installed. And in this list, you will see all the apps that are installed on your devices, even if the users installed it manually. As long as they are supported by PatchMyPC, you will see them in here. And here you'll be able to click on the count to see which devices have it installed, or you'll be able to sort by count, ascending or descending, to then see what apps have the software installed. But you'll be able to automate the entire process. So instead of you having to select the software that's installed on a specific number of devices, you'll be able to use auto-publishing rules. So let's say a specific software is installed on 10 or more devices. As soon as that count is reached, PatchMyPC will automatically tick the box next to that software in PatchMyPC, and it will automatically publish it as an update to WSUS. And with the second option, you can do the same thing for SCCM apps, which we're going to talk about in a minute. But you can automate that software to be published as an SCCM app as well.
Go for it.
Is there a plan for this to be supported in Intune?
It is supported in Intune.
It is?
Yeah.
Do you mean this feature specific?
This feature specifically?
It is supported in Intune as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We haven't got to it yet. But yeah, in either of the Intune tabs, we haven't yet configured this, but there's an identical icon that benefits from the same inventory devices on the data, same inventory data from the devices, and it does the same marry up for us. Yeah, and the same auto publishing feature too.
It's just the source of the inventory will be different. Then it will take the data from Intune.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. Let's move on to ConfigMgr and Apps. So to kind of lay the land here a bit, we switched tabs, and you'll see that we have a very similar list of products to choose from, but we switched focus and context here. In the Updates tab, we were talking specifically about software updates in SCCM, or which end up in WSUS2. So they would appear here when we synchronize PatchMyPC. So we haven't got there yet. So the next thing that Liviu is going to kind of explain some of the unique options, but are going to be focusing on the ability to create base install apps in ConfigMgr. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. With apps, let's say you configure the updates and you don't want to pre-configure them again. As you've noticed, Adam clicked this button. It just mirrored whatever settings we have done on the updates tab. So we don't have to manually do them all over again to select all the apps and to do the custom scripts, custom command lines. It's just going to be mirrored. Now with the SCCM apps, we have some general settings we can configure. Some of them will be enabled by default. In our case, we have pre-configured some like this one here to move the applications to a custom folder. Otherwise, by default, the apps will be created in the root of applications in SCCM. If we want them to be in a custom folder, we can specify that in here. And then we have some other options. Now, I would like to make a note here. All of the options you see in here, these are general options. But, of course, you might have exceptions. If you have exceptions, you can override any of these settings at the individual app level.
Yeah.
there is a really nice option that I'm a big fan of, and that is when a new application update is available. So let's say we package up using PatchMyPC version 1 of an app, let's say Google Chrome. Now, 2 weeks from now, there's going to be a newer version of Chrome. What should happen then? By default, PatchMyPC will not create a new package for Google Chrome, a new app for Chrome. It will update the existing one in place. Now, there are a few scenarios where this will be really helpful. If you like to deploy apps as available and make them available to all users, for instance, because the app will update in place, every time the users will go in the software center, they will always have the latest version available to them.
Yeah.
So you don't have to always deploy the app. Yeah. Another good example is if you like to use the app in a task sequence to use it to image devices, because the app will update in place, it's going to be the same app ID. Whenever you image devices, it's always going to be the latest version of that app installed. So you won't have to worry about, hey, I imaged 10 devices today, but they're out of date, now I need to patch them. Yeah. That won't be the case.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of course, the other option would be to create a new application every single time. And then with a new app, it's going to be up to you when to deploy it, when to update the task sequences, and so on. You can also define how many older versions PatchMyPC should retain. Let's say you don't want to have 10 older versions of each app in there. So you can tell PatchMyPC to retain a few older versions, like let's say 1 or 2. It's really up to you. We do recommend you to retain a couple of them, at least, in case you'll ever have to do a rollback.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's pretty much it with that option.
Yeah, I'm just going to show that if you wanted to change that update behavior or retention, like Liviu said at the beginning, you can set that on a per product basis too. So the general use case for apps, like Liviu said, allow users and enable users to self-service the installation of fresh installs, and updates will just take care of patching for you.
Correct.
Does it do supersedence? So if you've got leaving 2 or 3 different versions, does it add a supersede like this is superseded by an old version?
We don't leverage the supersedence chain in apps and deployment types, no.
I think you're worried about detection.
Yeah.
We use PowerShell scripts for detection, and we always check for greater than or equal to. So even if you deploy, let's say, version 1 of an app, which is already updated to version 2, it should say that it's already installed based on the script.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. And I think I'll just kind of say one last thing is that when you right-click in each of the tabs, you'll see when I right-click here at the All Products level, there are more options here than what there are in the Updates tab. And that's just because inherently for applications in SCCM, there are more opportunities to customize these things rather than what you can just regular WSUS updates. And the same is true in the Intune apps and Intune updates tab. So I'm just going to, again, click that nice handy copy button. So it's going to give me a mirrored configuration between all 4 tabs. But now the context has changed as I'm now selecting what apps and updates I want made in Intune. And just to kind of give you a quick overview, these are going to create Win32 packages in Intune. I'm just going to come to Intune here and hit refresh. So currently I have no packages, but by having the distinction between apps and updates, maybe you want to explain distinction between Intune apps and updates.
Yeah.
They're both Win32 packages, but
Absolutely. If I don't break my neck here.
Yeah.
So Intune apps will act as regular base apps. So meaning that you'll be able to, well, they will install on the client side even if there isn't an older version installed. The Intune updates, on the other hand, they will only install if an older version is already present. And with the updates, the architecture will matter. Because if you deploy Notepad++, for instance, x64, as required to all your devices, and then someone will have Notepad++ x86, the update will not apply because it's a different bitness of the app, so you have to mind that as well.
Awesome. Yeah, when we create packages, we'll show them in the properties on how what that looks like in Intune on the package itself. But
I mean, there are other quirks, like minor differences between them, but this is the main one.
Yeah, absolutely. And just like in ConfigMgr apps, there is an options dialog here for Intune, and this is probably one of the biggest call-outs to make for the Intune integration. In order to make sure that we can connect and authenticate to your tenant, you need to create an app registration in Azure. And this effectively just becomes a credential for us to use using Microsoft's Graph API. And then, we provide full docs on how to kind of do that, start to finish if you're unsure. But there's 6 permissions, and if you click test, we'll make sure that you set it up correctly, and then we'll even tell you if we have not enough or too much permissions, just so that we have just enough of what we need. But in essence, it'll be permissions to kind of
Just to add on that, Adam,
Yeah.
for those worried about security, Patch My PC is not pretentious at all. It will only require read and write permissions only for 2 of them, the ability to create apps and the ability to, what's the second one? For enrollment status pages.
Yeah.
In case you want to use autopilot. And that's it. Everything else is just read, so you don't have, Patch My PC is not pretentious at all when it comes to permissions.
So that, you mentioned autopilot, that's a really good point. So I'm just going to right-click here in Intune, and again, make that point of there will be different right-click options for Intune because there's more opportunities or different opportunities to customize in Intune. But if you use autopilot today, I'm just going to come down to Google Chrome. I'm going to right-click on Google Chrome and say you use the enrollment status page profiles feature within Intune. We can actually designate apps from Patch My PC to be maintained in an ESP. So in ESPs, you can say apps must be listed as blocking apps that make sure certain apps are installed while the device is being provisioned before the user logs on for the first time. By designating that relationship in Patch My PC for any given app, we'll maintain it. So I mean, we'll put Google Chrome in now, but next week if there's a new version of Google Chrome, we'll take out that old package and put in the new package for you. So whenever a new device is built, it will just be the latest version of any given app. Yeah. And we did jump on it earlier from the question, but that same scan feature, yeah, I guess we don't need to talk too much about this.
Yeah, it's
Same in Intune. So Intune still collects installed software on the devices, and we still show you that data to show you what you could enable. And I just want to call out, sometimes you'll see duplicates here, and generally the distinction is between showing you the same number between 32-bit and 64-bit. We can't often distinguish between the two, what is on the device based on what Intune collects, so we default to showing you both and just hope that you know better.
I was just about to call that out as well,
Yeah,
because Intune
awesome.
just gathers the name and the version of the app.
Yeah.
It doesn't gather the architecture, so there is no way for us to differentiate between those.
Cool, awesome. So do you want to talk a bit about the sync schedule?
Yeah, sync schedule is pretty much self-explanatory. Here you can determine when Patch My PC should run its sync, when the sync is running, based on the selection of the software you have made on the various tabs. Patch My PC will go to the vendor's website, download the latest version of the apps. We are not storing the apps, with minor exceptions, but yeah, we are not storing the installers. Patch My PC is going to download the latest version and then package them up and publish them to Intune or SCCM. Here you can schedule this to run at various times. You can also run it manually by pressing this button here, in case you don't want to wait until 7 p.m. And the final option that I would like to mention is this one. What this does, this only relates to WSUS updates. And when Patch My PC will run the sync to publish new updates to WSUS, if this option is enabled, it will trigger a software update point sync to sync the updates from WSUS.
Yeah, just to get it all there in one fluid motion.
Yeah.
Because it's one thing, put it in WSUS, then we need to make ConfigMgr aware of it. That's
Yeah.
why we have the option to trigger a subsync straight away. But yeah, so while the sync's running, that buys us some time to kind of round up here in the UI. So we'll end up in alerts, and there's one feature in advance. So I'll just explain alerts, and maybe you tackle the local content repo
Yeah.
in advance. So
Absolutely.
in the alerts tab, you can receive notifications when we create new packages in your tenants, and we can give you a breakdown in Teams or email, but we support Slack notifications too. And just get a breakdown of what was just made. And the webhooks are real time. So as and when a package is made in my tenant, I get a breakdown, what was the version number, get a hyperlink to the vendor's release notes, and I also get the breakdown of that distinction of classification, severity, and also any CVEs that the vendor might disclose in that particular update. And I personally prefer the email notification. The style, let me find a template example. Yeah, this will do. This one's got some, this must have been from another demo. The style of the email is very basic, but it's very informative. I very much like it because if there was a problem in this sync cycle, and these are notifications of when new packages are made. If there was a problem in that sync cycle, this will be red. It'll say error. It'll give you an error message, a link to an article, and it'll just give you that same data that we see in Teams, but in a single digestible format. So it's very, style-wise, it's very simple, but it just gives you that nice, easy to understand if there's a problem or
And
not.
this is where Adam and I don't agree. He's a big fan of email reports, but I'm a big fan of webhooks.
Okay.
Because the webhooks in Teams, they will allow you to be a lot more granular, to to
true.
configure the alerts,
Yeah.
well, to configure them, let's say,
Mm-hmm.
if you want the alerts to have the alerts, the publishing success messages
Yeah.
in a specific channel, you'll be able to do so.
Yeah.
But if you want to have the error messages in a dedicated channel, like Adam is showcasing
Yeah.
right now, you'll be able to make that difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
How are you getting the CVE information? Is that Patch My PC data?
No, if the vendor provides that information, then with the release notes, then we'll include it. Otherwise, if they don't provide us that, then we won't have it either. I think I'm correct, right?
No, you're right, but we embed it in the catalog as well. So for each
yeah.
product, each update in our catalog, there's a bunch of metadata fields, and we just throw CVEs within the catalog. So, and we purely depend on what the vendor tells us. If the vendor discloses it, great. If they don't, then what can we do, right?
So on that, is that a manual process, or is it kind of done automatically scraping their release notes pages?
Yeah, we have some automation that scrapes for new versions, but to kind of qualify and kind of sort that metadata, there's human involvement too. Yeah.
So is there much of a lag between a customer, a vendor releasing a product version and it appearing in Patch My PC?
So we generally aim for same day. So if Google released today a new version of Chrome, we'll have it in today. And we definitely have some pretty cool things coming in the pipeline to allow us to kind of release faster on a higher cadence, multiple times a day. But generally, we aim for same day. And it's not uncommon for us to do twice a day. Things
with
like
that
Google
cases.
Chrome are pretty heavy with
Yeah.
big 0 days that get a lot of traction and attention. So we react quite quickly.
And
yeah.
even though it's not common, we had cases where an engineer came online to add apps during the weekend because of 0 days that were released on like
Yeah.
a Sunday or Saturday.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's not a 0 day, it's not a highly critical app, might do it on Mondays, but it's not, well, we've had cases, multiple cases where someone came online to add the apps on the weekend, so. Because your security is important to us, that's why we are in the market.
Yeah, sure, yeah. Do you want to talk about local content repo?
Yeah, so on the, I think I cut you off with the RSS feed with the notification.
Oh, yeah, let me just go. So we also provide newsletter notifications, and you can subscribe to an RSS feed, and you can see how frequently we release updates to our catalog. And we publish, you can subscribe to notifications to even the apps that you don't have enabled in Patch My PC, and we'll just have that breakdown in a nice uniformed way. The update, again, release notes, color-coordinated region based on the classification and severity. For every update, we throw it through Virus Total before we release it. And if it's an abnormally than usual higher hits in Virus Total, we hold back. Equally, if a vendor typically signs an EXE or an MSI and we notice that it's not in the next update, we hold back. So, that coupled with hash verification, we're very committed to just making sure that the updates, they are what they are. And a key point to make, and I think you may have mentioned this earlier, before we create apps and updates in Intune, we'll see hash verification happen somewhere in the log file. So before we even create the update in your environment, we do another hash comparison on your server before we create the update, just to make sure that it wasn't tampered with in transit. Yeah, cool. So local content repo.
Yeah, local content. This is a very nice option because at the beginning of this demo, we mentioned that Patch My PC will go to the vendor's website to download the installers automatically for you. Now, of course, this won't work for some apps that sit behind the paywall or apps that, let's say, the vendors wraps them into a zip file. So for those apps, these apps that are listed on this page that Adam is showcasing, for these apps, we will have to download the installer manually. So for instance, we can see for TeamViewer, the MSI, you'll have to have a license, you'll have to log into their portal to download the MSI. For the EXE, that's not the case, so Patch My PC will automate the packaging for the EXE, but for the MSI, you'll have to download the installer yourself and just dump it in that local repo that you define in here. It can be a local path, doesn't have to be a UNC path. So yeah, all you need to do is just dump the installer in that folder. Patch My PC will run, when it will run the sync, it will take the installer from there and package it up for you.
Yeah.
And the nice part with the alerts is, let's say there's going to be a newer version of this licensed app, and you're not aware of it. Patch My PC will run the sync, it will try to package it up for you, but if the installer is not there, it's going to notify you. Hey, I tried to package this app for you, but I couldn't find the installer in the local repo. Please go and download it.
I tried to find one, but I can't find one.
I think there is one under Patch My PC error notifications, maybe.
I did look.
Yeah, if you scroll up a bit, there should be one for Java.
Is it?
Yeah, there is. So we can see here it says this requires a manual.
Oh, nice spot. Yeah. I was looking for a warning triangle, not yet red X.
Yeah,
my bad.
requires a manual download. So please go and download that installer and
Yeah.
place it in the local repo. So
Awesome.
it will notify you.
Cool. So let's take a look at the Patch My PC log file just to see where we are with the sync. And we know the log file quite well, so we know where to look. We print out the sync kind of result in the log file at the end, and we can see that it was successful. So now we can jump into SCCM and Intune and just show you what these artifacts look like. So I'll start with, I think, ConfigMgr and apps.
Yeah.
So yeah, the apps here, they're ready to use. You know, you can immediately deploy these to your users. You can put them in your task sequences. And you know, we populate many of the tabs that you would preferably do yourself, particularly in the Software Center tab. You'll see a description, name, and icon. Same is true in Intune. You'll see keywords and such. And Liviu did touch on this earlier. We use PowerShell for the detection method nearly all of the time. And you know, you're welcome to read it. It's just this is a layer of abstraction that we support. This is just us looping through the registry. It doesn't do anything more than that, really. We're just looping in the registry, finding display name, sometimes some other registry keys, doing the greater than or equals to operator on version comparison, just so in case if there's a newer version installed, then that's also okay. However, for the updates,
By the way, sorry, Adam.
Yeah.
In terms of content distribution for the apps,
Oh,
the
yeah.
content by default is going to be distributed to all your distribution points. But if you don't want that to happen, let's say you have a cloud DP and you don't want that to happen, you can customize that within Patch My PC,
Yeah.
and it will only distribute to the DPs you specify.
absolutely, yeah, thank you. And then the updates, you can see that these are now appearing in ConfigMgr just like regular software updates do. And this just kind of highlights the level of integration. We're creating updates in WSUS just like Microsoft do, but this time with third-party updates. And clients are now phoning back and with their status on the applicability rules, and they're kind of giving their indication to SCCM whether the updates are needed or not. And so whatever your process is today for deploying these things, we can see that it will fit right in. So if you manually download and deploy software updates, that's okay, but we highly recommend that you use ADRs. So an ADR is an engine built into ConfigMgr to help you automate just software update deployment in general in ConfigMgr, but there's absolutely no reason why you can't achieve the same with third-party updates. And generally, the minimum criteria that you would need for an ADR in ConfigMgr is vendor and superseded, and that will allow you to automatically publish. Yeah.
I really like this about Patch My PC before I joined this company. Normally let's say other companies, when they automate packaging for you, they will do it for each vendor. You will have a different category. So it's going to be one for Adobe, one for Chrome, one for Google, and so on. So you'll have to
Right.
update your ADRs.
Right.
But with Patch My PC, there's going to be a single vendor, Patch My PC,
Yeah.
and that's it. All the updates
One
will be.
category in WSUS. Cool. And do you want to talk about the Intune packages?
Yeah, so sure, why not? I mean, we didn't assign them.
We can do, yeah.
We can.
Yeah.
So these are the apps. Everything is going to be done automatically by Patch My PC. So if you are to look at the properties, everything is going to be there, all the metadata, icon description. So we have 2 updates and then 2 apps. We can see the difference in the name there.
Sorry, I was
All we need to do
daydreaming.
right now is to assign them. Sorry?
I was daydreaming, sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
So this is the nice pretty stuff, the icon
Yeah.
and stuff, yeah. And then there's the update package, yeah.
Yep, and we can see the latest version of both apps, and updates has been packaged. All we need to do right now is to deploy them.
So I think one thing I'll call, excuse me, call out is this is distinction. This is the distinction
nice.
between an update package and an app package. In update packages, you'll see a requirement script defined. This script runs before the package installs, and we're just querying the registry to understand if Google Chrome is already installed and if
Like
it's an
an
older
older version of it.
Yeah, it has to be an older version. That way, the package is then permitted to install, and it gives you that confidence to kind of broadly deploy to all users and all devices, and it would just run on those that need it. Whereas with the app, you know, it's just a free-for-all. If you deploy the app package, so this is the product that comes from the Intune Apps tab, if you deploy this to all devices, it will install on all devices. Yeah. Now you'll notice that Liviu called out that these are not assigned. So on the right-hand side column for assigned, it's currently set as no. That's the default behavior. We will not create any assignments for packages that we make in Intune. Default behavior, you'll have to go into Intune and create the assignments. don't do that, you can automate that in Patch My PC, and that's just a right-click option. And I think we'll just kind of briefly talk about managed assignments and managed dynamic assignments
Yes.
right now. So I'm just going to quickly deploy the ConfigMan apps to my client so we can show client side in a minute. Do you want to talk about managed assignments?
Yeah.
We'll do apps first. Yeah?
So these assignments can be set at the top level. If you don't want to set it individually for each app, you can do it at the individual app level as well. But if you click that Manage Assignment option, this window will open, and think of it as a template. For base Intune apps, you'll be able to set required or available install assignments or an uninstall assignment. And based on this template, when Patch My PC will run this sync, it will automatically create the app in Intune as a Win32 app, but it will also set the assignments you have preset in this template in here. And the same thing can be done with Intune updates if you want to. I mean, here you can select multiple groups if you want to, and then preset and change the availability. Let's say for the IT only, you want the updates to install 1 day later. For the pilot group, you want the updates to install 3 days later. So you'll be able to set this in here, and then you'll have a deployment ring as a template. So you don't have to worry about always manually assign it and setting templates. If something goes wrong in the first wave, you can just go and stop the other 2 rollouts for that specific update.
Yeah, and we can absolutely fiddle with that at the product level as well. So you'll
Yeah.
see inheritance is applied here, but if you wanted a different cadence or different kind of strategy for just Google Chrome updates, you can absolutely achieve that. And talk about managed dynamic assignments as well.
Yeah, let's do. That's an important option. So
Yeah.
for those familiar with SCCM, they will see that this is very similar to ADRs. But for those that aren't, we can also dynamically set assignments. So please keep in mind the regular assignments that we've seen, the regular template. Think of that as static assignments. Whenever the sync will run, it will create those assignments based on that template. With dynamic assignments, you'll be able to specify some filters. I'm not sure if anything will match, but as you can see here, Adam mentioned all the updates that have a critical vulnerability and where the update classification is a security update. And when this runs, we can see that Chrome matches the criteria we have defined. And in this case, if anything matches the criteria we have defined in there, we don't want those updates to go to the static, to the regular deployment ring that we've specified with the static assignments. We can tell it, for instance, to go immediately out as required to all devices, because this is a browser update and it updates just fine. This should go immediately out as required to all devices because it's critical. Or you can create different deployment rings.
Yeah, so if you have the same group specified, a popular config here is have the same groups but with more aggressive deadlines. So instead of 3 days and 7 days delay, with that criteria, you've deemed it to be more vulnerable, you want to be more proactive, so you can set a 1 day delay on your first broad pilot collection and then a 2 day delay on your production group. So yeah, functionality very similar to ADRs. Yeah.
Exactly. If there's going to be a newer version of Chrome, if the newer version doesn't match the criteria you have defined in here, this dynamic assignments will not be set. So then the static assignments will kick in and they're going to go through the regular deployment.
Cool. So at this point, I think it's safe to say once you've configured the publisher, you've got it on a scheduled sync. You've selected what apps you want, pre-configured with all the customizations you need. Maybe you've got auto publishing enabled. Generally speaking, you don't need to come back into the publisher too often. Generally, you only need to come back to change right-click options like different switches and things, or to select more apps or updates.
Yeah.
So what we'll do now is that we'll just jump to our SCCM client and just take a look at what these look like client side. So got the software center open. We're in the apps sort of blade thing, and we can see 2 of the apps that we deployed as available, or I deployed it via a script. You didn't see me do it, but I kicked off a script on my desktop that did it. And this is just what the user experience, this is the front sort of user experience in the software center. Imagine a user would like Notepad++, they call you and they ask for it. Just using our solution, the Enterprise Plus subscription gives you the ability to add base install apps, and you can just say to them, hey, go to the software center, and the same is true for Intune. Go to the company portal for the base install app. And for updates, it depends how you orchestrate your deployments. Maybe they're hidden in the software center or not, but if the users are to expect the software center use in the updates tab, or maybe they're just used to that reboot countdown time, and that's native in ConfigMan and how Windows updates are handled in ConfigMan, it's identical. The same workflows are true here. So the same processes. The deployments are given to and from the management point, the contents from the DP, the client scans against WSUS, so there's no Patch My PC agent here. This is just our integration in ConfigMan, leveraging that existing infrastructure, and the same is true in Intune. So what I'll do is I'll probably just kick off the update here, and yeah.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say I've got Notepad++ open, and I've kicked off both Google Chrome and Notepad++, and I don't know which will start first. Okay, so Notepad++. So it's nice I've got it open. I've got that dialog asking me to close it or snooze. I interact with the toast notification, or I can just close the software, and then it would go ahead and just start patching. And then we'll see that these icons will disappear, but generally speaking, the workflow here is identical to regular software updates. So if you were to troubleshoot this, you would be looking at the regular log files, WA handler, updates, deployment updates, store. There is one log file client side that's worth knowing. Maybe it's TMI, but there is one log file in the regular ConfigMan directory called script runner. And in here, this is a really good log file, not that one. Just to look at for troubleshooting if you're ever curious. If you ever configure apps or updates to have unique customizations like a script, we'll see after this Google Chrome calls, we can see the MSI for Google Chrome is being called. We can see all the parameters being passed to it on the client. It's a really good log file for troubleshooting, especially when you add a custom script or add any other customizations, because that will be outputted here too. You'll see the exit code of the script and all the other right-click options. So, yeah, I think that's pretty much the demo, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think
think
that
we
would be
missed anything.
the process from start to finish. Now, I can ramble a bit more while you set up the raffle.
Go for it.
Because of time constraints, we only showcased, or we focused on SCCM and the Software Center. The same behavior would work with the company portal. If you use the company portal, it would be very similar. So yeah, that's why we focused only on one of them because of the time constraints. Now, if you want to go and talk more about the specific one, just hit us up. We have the table there, or you can schedule another demo on our website. It's completely free, and then we can showcase this again for you and your team as well, only for SCCM or Intune or both, depending on what you're.
I think that's a really good point. Yeah, you can schedule a demo with us, and it would be similar content to this. It would just be one-on-one, an opportunity to kind of talk about your unique circumstances, your environment, or your customer's environment. And just book a one-on-one demo. There's many of us that sit and rotate on these and kind of deliver these on a one-on-one basis.
So it's going to be an engineer. It's not going to be a salesperson. We think that the product sells itself, so it's going to be an engineer showing you.
We won't be chasing you. Yeah, we'll just show the product and take it or leave it. But yeah, okay. So so Lego, how this works on your phones or your laptop, go to swagit.io. When you go to swagit.io, you'll be asked to enter a room number. Enter the number up top, 5037, and then you'll be entered into a raffle. David's in there.
We don't collect information if that's what you're worried about, and you'll have the chance to win a Lego set.
Yeah, no, we won't be collecting information.
Can I enter as well?
Can you enter? No. So enter, and then I think when everyone's entered, we'll hit start draw, and then whatever name appears on screen will be the winner. And it's kind of a tease actually on your phone. Even if you lose, it kind of celebrates. It kind of says, "Congratulations, you lost." So it's like it makes you feel like you've won, but it's like, oh no, you haven't. So you have to read what it says, but just see what it says on screen. So. So how many you got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, I don't know if everyone's going to do it. So, okay. I think we'll just hit start draw. Is anyone in the process of doing it? I can hold. No? Okay, cool. All right. No, you're good. You're good, mate. You're good. Start draw. It's rotating. Got excited then.
Who's Kieran? Is that? Gave you a false hopes for a bit there.
Awesome.
Congratulations.
Hey. Oh, that was well played. Well done. You want it later? Okay, yeah, no worries. You can grab it from the booth. But any questions on the product that you saw today? All good?
What happens if you enable every app for WSUS?
I mean, you could do it.
Get out. Go on. I mean, you could. You just have to really hug and give a lot of tender loving care to WSUS. Like, Yeah. No, in all seriousness, you could, but don't. Yeah.
Yeah.
Same as switching on all the products and config mode. Good luck.
Right. Right. Cool. Okay. Well, yeah. Thanks for coming, guys, and yeah, reach out if you have any questions.
Yep.
Yes.
Awesome.